the story with Sean Payton now is, and this came from, of all places, not a traditional sports outlet, but a sports media outlet, frontofficesports.com. Michael McCarthy reported that the Panthers are eyeing Sean Payton for 2023. Now, there's a lot that would have to happen to take it from eyeing to hiring, including the Saints being willing to de facto trade Sean Payton to a division rival.
Right.
You don't have to release his rights for anyone. And it's not a trade per se, but what happens is team approaches the Saints like the Dolphins did. Dolphins admit that they made this phone call. Team approaches the Saints. What would the compensation be if we were to try to hire the guy who's under contract with you? They work out the compensation. Then they approach the coach. They get the deal done. And the reality is all that stuff happens behind the scenes. Everybody knows before it even starts that the new team and the coach are going to work out a deal. But you still have to work out the compensation. And the Saints could say, no freaking way are we letting Sean Payton coach the Panthers. No way, no how, never. So that's the first big hurdle.
Yeah, right.
There,
big hurdle.
Right?
Yeah.
But what happened was the Panthers issued a statement that wasn't like 100% like, we have a coach. This is ridiculous. It was like we would. It was just a weird phrasing that made me think, boy, if I was Matt Rule, I would like something a little stronger than what they said, because it wasn't the kind of loud voice, full-throated, this is ridiculous kind of comment that I would have expected from the Panthers, because I would look at it if I'm the Panthers and say, this is ridiculous, especially since we're a year away from even having the conversation. So we say all that, Chris, because Matt Rule, coach of the Panthers, was inevitably asked about it over the weekend at the rookie minicamp. Here's what Rule had to say about the report on Sean Payton being eyed by the Panthers for 2023.
With regards to that report, first I heard of it, Dave called me and told me that, that it was going to come out, that they had called him and that there was nothing to it. I know Dave Tepper well enough to believe that he wouldn't be talking to another coach right now. When he came to my house 2.5 years ago, he told me that this was a 5-year rebuild. I mean, that's what he said to me, and he convinced me then to come be a part of it with him and build it with him. And we're not where we want to be, and I don't think it's going to take 5 years. I don't want it to take 5 years, but those are the words that he said to me, and so I'm looking forward to taking a step this year. I like our football team. I like the way that we're working. I like this draft. And I have a lot of faith in the people in this building, the way everyone's working, and I certainly have a lot of faith in Dave. That's why I left a great job with people that I loved and cared about to come here, because I believed in his long-term vision to get this thing done. And so, do I want stories like that out there? Probably not. But at the same time, I also know a lot of people lose their edge when great stories about you. So I'm going to continue this to grind and work and, see where things fall.
Little reflection and pondering in that answer by Matt Rule. And the reality is owners are always thinking multiple moves on the chessboard. What happens if things don't work out this year? Where do we go from here? Not that David Tepper would have already spoken to Sean Payton,
right.
But we know that we know enough about the NFL, Chris, that, yeah, a lot of times, I was told by somebody in the league office, 70 to 80% of the time when a coach is fired, the owner knows who's going to be hired next. That's one of the challenges when it comes to having open and diverse and inclusive searches. If 70 to 80% of the time you already know you're going to hire, what's the point of doing a search? What's the point of begging these owners to take their time if they already know who they're going to hire? I remember vividly going into the 2009 season, I think it was. Worst kept secret in the NFL, Daniel Snyder was going to fire Jim Zorn and hire Mike Shanahan.
Yeah, right.
I mean, everybody knew. Everybody knew.
Yep.
And that's what he did. But I just don't see Sean Payton going to Carolina. I think that from Sean Payton's perspective, it's good to have this buzz that's out there. But everybody thinks he's going to the Cowboys. It's Cowboys or bust. He's not going to go to the Panthers. He's not going to go to a rebuild situation. He's going to go to a place where he thinks he can win sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to cancel anything out. And as you've heard me say, and I think you see it too to a degree, There is some talent on this Carolina roster. There is. Now, all right, I feel like this is like we could just play fill in the blank. Put coach who might have an ass that's hot on a seat this year, and then we can just put in, oh, wait, Sean Payton might go there. I mean, Sean Payton's we're going to be talking about Sean Payton all season long. Every team that is even thinking about making a move or firing a coach, everyone's going to bring up Sean Payton. Everybody. I mean, we are, you are. Why wouldn't you? He's one of the great coaches of all time. He's one of the greatest offensive minds in the history of football. And he's not like old or crazy or anything here. He's just taking some time off. So to me, he will be the hottest commodity in the sport when we get towards the end of the season and talk about, replacements. And it's just going to be about what he chooses and where he, when he wants to come back. But I think we're going to hear a lot of chatter about Sean Payton with some of these teams who might be looking to make a move at the head coach position.
There also has to be a willingness by the Saints to do business with whoever it is that ultimately wants to hire Sean Payton. And I know the Saints officially weren't interested in trading de facto Sean Payton now.
Right.
That was after it all was blown up by the Brian Flores lawsuit anyway. I think if push comes to shove, Sean Payton finds a way to prevail upon ownership, GM Mickey Loomis, whoever. And you know what? If all else failed, I was thinking of this the other day. If all else fails, because this whole thing arises from the fact that the Saints still have Sean Payton under contract. You could pull a Brett Favre and just come back. Fine, you're not going to release me. You're not going to trade my rights. You got a head coach. Well, you got two head coaches now because I'm back, baby. Deal with me.
Yeah, I think
you really wanted to be an ass about it, you could do that.
Right. It almost files under the category of like what we talk about with like the disgruntled player a little bit, right? Or the that kind of thing. Like, no, what are you going to do if he says he wants to come back or whatever? He doesn't want to be there. Like, what? They're just at some point they're just going to go, okay, fine. Just Sean doesn't want to be here. He wants to go somewhere else. What team, whatever, just give us something respectable for the rights of Sean Payton, and we'll call it a day and see you later. And, yeah, that's what I was led to believe. There was already those conversations from what I had heard, with the Saints and the Dolphins to a degree. So
look,
we'll see where it goes.
It doesn't get to the point where the Dolphins officially make the call and admit to it.
Yeah.
Unless they know they're not wasting their time.
Right.
This wasn't a fishing expedition by Stephen Ross and company. They knew what they were going to be able to do. They knew what they wanted to do. That's why the Dolphins admitting, when Chris Greer, the GM of the Dolphins, admitted on the record at the Combine that call was made, that's when the whole story crystallized. And again, it continues to be overlooked by so many people in sports media because I guess they don't want to give us credit, Chris, because we've been on it since the end of February. And ESPN, nothing. NFL Network, nothing. And there's the threads are out there everywhere.
I know somebody at ESPN and NFL Network who know that there's a true story. They just, I don't know, they don't report it. So I don't know what it is.
Well, it'll come week one.
Yeah.
Sunday Splash Report, week one. But I agree with you. I think Peyton will be back in 2023. And I'm surprised he hasn't taken a job yet with Fox or Amazon.
It makes you think even more, right?
Well, there's been this sense that it's coming.
Right.
And maybe he's just taking his time. What's the rush? Don't need to do it until week one. Maybe it's a leverage play. Can't fault him for that between Fox and Amazon. Who's going to pay me more? Where do I get the best spot? Where do I best position myself to have that A-list opportunity? Because he needs to be in the public eye all season long. I think even if he's not, he's still going to be the hottest candidate going.
Agreed. I think he can do either.
He doesn't have to. Have to. And if he's really thinking about coming back,
maybe you don't do the TV thing.
Maybe you skip the TV.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking, Mike. Honestly, when you started going down that road and you were like, "Yeah, it's kind of funny he hasn't signed on somewhere," to me that was more of like, that's because he's just going to sit back and be good boy and not say anything about any coaches or do anything because he's going to be right back in the thick of things next year. and he doesn't want to be there looking like Johnny Expert evaluating every coach and picking them apart and maybe talking about some assistant that he wants to hire in his staff next year and says something that assistant doesn't like, whatever. I certainly could see that being part of his thought because you're right. I don't think he's so big. He does not need to be in the public eye. He's been so good for so long. He could take a year off, totally obscure, and come back and everybody be like, yes, we got Sean Payton.
I do think he's smart enough to find ways to be compelling, critical,
right,
entertaining,
yeah,
without the John Gruden default of I'm just going to praise everyone and everything. I'm going to bite my tongue,
right,
and I'm going to smile, and I'm going to say everything is awesome and everyone is great so I don't burn any bridges. I think Sean Payton, whereas John Gruden refused to even enter the minefield, I think Sean Payton is smart enough to tiptoe through it and find a way to be good and compelling and informative without being this. And I remember how stunned I was because I'm thinking, all right, we got Chucky. Let's go. This is going to be awesome. This is going to be that guy that's always scowling on the sideline, always pissed off about something. We're going to have him in the booth. He's going to be as good as John Madden, if not better. Because remember, he started the first year after John Madden retired. And it's like, this is different. It's a different dynamic. It's a different personality, but it's going to be Chucky and it's going to be great. It's like, would they give him a lobotomy? What did they do to him? I remember thinking that, like,
everybody was shocked.
What did they do to John Gruden?
Yeah. Hey.
He's not saying anything other than everything is great and everybody's awesome and this guy's great and that guy's great. And so Peyton would find a way to be good, but we may be onto something here. Maybe he realizes if I am coming back next year, I don't need a seat at a table somewhere, and it's only going to get in the way of what it is that I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I agreed. I think that could be it. He just plays it low key for a year. So what? Take a deep breath. Don't have any obligations. Kind of figure out, maybe self-scout thyself a little bit, what you want to do, what maybe you want to change coaching-wise. You start to slowly think about coaches you want to put together for your staff, all of that type of stuff. I wouldn't be shocked to see Sean Payton take that route and just kind of lay back and evaluate the landscape of the NFL and try to figure out, what his next move is. I certainly wouldn't. I'm with you. Dallas seems to be the one that everybody look at, but I don't just pin it to that. I feel like he's too much of a football coach to be out too long to where I think he's going to want to get in, and if Dallas doesn't present itself, he'll get into the next best situation or whatever the one he deems the next best situation.
And to the extent that he kind of wanted to take a step back this year, because the guy works his ass off. He's in the Bill Belichick category. He's not on the golf course. He's not semi-retired. He's busting his ass and grinding and grinding and grinding, always looking for any edge, always looking for anything, putting in hours and hours and hours for that one little flicker of a possibility that could make a difference in a game as each game approaches. So if you're trying to take a break, and you're going to work in TV, there's a certain amount of time you're going to have to put in to prepare yourself to be good in TV. You can't just show up, say, hey, who's on tonight, and just fly by the seat of your pants. So whatever work you would put in there is taking away time from the work you would be putting in to lay the foundation so you can come back and hit the ground running next year. I think that now that I don't know any of this, this is speculation, Drew. This is not reporting. But how many months have gone by? 3-4 months. I think maybe he's starting to realize, hell, if I want to do this next year's going to be here before you know it. I better get to work thinking about who my staff's going to be. I left my staff. in New Orleans.
Yeah.
I got to start from scratch.
Exactly.
What am I going to do here?
Right.
What? Yeah. So
yeah, now you're trying to kind of back channel do that in December, and you're going, oh damn, wait, I got to go to studio and get this ready. And I mean, I certainly could see that being part of it.
He has said nothing though to suggest he's not going to work in TV. If anything, anytime he talks about it, I think most recently it was on Morton Anderson's podcast, the Great Dane podcast.
That's great.
He said something along the lines of an announcement's coming soon between Amazon and Fox. And it's upfront season where the networks meet with the advertisers, and they like to be able to say, here's our lineup. So, if Fox is going to have Sean Payton, they'd probably kind of like to be able to say, we got Sean Payton. It's one of the reasons why Tom Brady was announced last week. A lot of buzz. You want to have the advertisers busting their wallets wide open to buy from you. And so whether it's Amazon, whether it's Fox, whether it's whoever, they'd kind of like to know what's going on by now. Even though Sean may be thinking, I don't need to know until week 1, the networks would probably like to get this resolved ASAP.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.